Hi there. I am super excited to talk to you today about kids that are kind of bossy or maybe rude, and some ideas of what you can do and how you can address that, and some ways that might be able to help them and maybe help you too, because I know it can be really hard as a parent when you're watching your kids go through that, or maybe you're experiencing that from them. So welcome to the Parenting Challenging Kids and our Parenting Bridge podcast. Happy to have you with us today. If you have not subscribed, I want to ask you to subscribe right away, because then every week when we drop these videos, you'll get notified that another video is dropped, and hopefully our goal is to have more and more of those in the future. I'm Dr. Michelle Alden, and I am a licensed professional counselor, and I am also a parent coach. I'm super excited to help people with their challenging kids, and I work with really difficult kids all the time, and I have a lot of ideas and different things that we can try. And so these are all just tools for you to use as a parent. If you want more individual coaching, you can certainly get that. You can go to our website, parentingchallengingkids.com, and you can sign up for a free consultation, which is like a mini coaching session, and I can talk to you about your situation, or if you have like, I just have one question, you can get some coaching right there, and I'm happy to help you. We also have some other options that you'll see on the website for ways to get individualized help. Meanwhile, though, you can watch these videos and get lots of tools and tips, and but it's just nice sometimes to be able to run those by somebody. It's like, oh, I tried this and this is what happened, and it's nice if you can kind of get some feedback on that. So I was thinking a lot this week about kids, and just kind of maybe kind of more of your sassy, like talking back kind of kids. Maybe they're bossy or rude. And a big piece of what I love to do is help parents to build better connection language. And I think that part of why I enjoy it so much is because I feel like it's something that we can all work on all the time. It's not just getting your kid to say something different, but a lot of times it's about us learning to do it differently. And if you feel like a huge failure in this, you're like, yeah, I tried that and I did really good all day, and then at the end of the day, I just lost it and got really upset at my child. Don't worry, you're not alone. A lot of people feel like they're just kind of biting their tongue and holding it together, and then something happens, and sometimes it's not even necessarily related to the child that, where you just kind of lost it. It's sometimes related to something else that's going on, or maybe I always found if I had several things, it might be like the third or fourth thing, and then I was like, okay, it's not even this child's fault. So when we're working on our skills, it's in connecting, I just want you to see it as something that is an ongoing process. We're always going to be working on how we're connecting as a family, how we're connecting with our kids, and how we're using better language skills even with our spouse. I love to think about some of the questions that other parent coaches ask, or the way that if you had a really good teacher that works with your kids, or a counselor, they just have this way of connecting with the child through the way that they kind of leave things open, where I think as a parent it's much harder, because I found that even as a counselor with some kids that I've worked with, or even with some of my kids, you can ask an open-ended question and you still kind of get these really short answers. So it's not always key the way that you ask the question. Sometimes we just have to try some different things. But I think that the mindset is a lot about, finding ways to connect and come around things a better way to get better results. So if your child is being bossy, telling you what to do, telling the other kids in the family what to do, certainly, I mean, as a parent, like you want to stop that behavior. But when our mindset is like, stop, don't talk to me that way, you're being disrespectful, or you're being rude, or stop being so bossy, you really haven't opened any doors to bring about any real change, because we know just from trying to change our own language that it can be really, really difficult. So, that's I'm going to just kind of address some of the common things that get said, and I know there's a bazillion more, and just kind of talk about, you know, some of these things and then how we can kind of come around it. So one of the things I hear a lot in families is and I like to talk about it in terms of staying in your own lane, but kids are always, and you'll see this with maladjusted people as well. And sorry if you've done this, but we have a tendency to want to kind of jump into other people's lane, right? So we're, you know, why doesn't he have to do anything? Why did I have to do chores? Why did and this person didn't have to, or you never make, or they're never in trouble, or this never happens. And in families, I think that the kids are always going to feel like somebody else is getting a better deal than they are. And maybe they are, I don't know. You know, I found that some kids that are more difficult are in trouble more often. They hear their names more often. They hear, you know, other people confronting them, or, you know, just trying to call them back on task. So they may feel like they're picked on. It's not necessarily that they are, but, you know, they're kind of in constant view of what needs to happen. But so it's really easy to then look at other people and not deal with our own stuff. And I think our kids are the same way. So in the family, you know, it may be, you know, why do I have to, you know, clean the kitchen? You know, Sally hasn't done anything all day and I've been doing all of this stuff. And so there's, you know, some different ways to address that. And one thing that I like to do is like look at kind of the need behind it, because it can be really irritating. So it gets really hard to just look at the need. But sometimes it's okay to just address. It's like, that's interesting that you're worried about what Sally's doing. Does it change what you're doing? Because we're still doing this, right? It doesn't change anything. And giving the child's like, yeah, I know that's frustrating, isn't it? I'm so glad that you're doing what I asked you to do. And it just takes the pressure off of, you know, you don't have to defend yourself that you're going to deal with Sally and her behavior. It doesn't matter. You don't need to have that discussion. You don't need to be like, yeah, I saw that. Or, you know, I know in a lot of families, like the behaviors get discussed, you know, it's like, yeah, I saw that. And you know what else? And, you know, all this stuff is like, that's not a parent-child conversation to have. And it's really important in your family to build health by dealing with that in a different way. So coming around it, you know, with really with that child that's bringing that out, and trying to think about what is it that they're saying, right? Like sometimes they just need attention for what they are doing. It's like, yeah, you know what? That is so great that you're ready for the day, that you got dressed, that you've had your breakfast. So let's see, what can you, you know, what kind of extra can you get because you were able to do this, right? Instead of pointing out like, yep, she's doing this and it's all wrong and we're going to deal with that, and, you know, all this kind of stuff. So thanking them. And then sometimes there is a need to give that reminder. It's like, you know, I like to say, you know, that's not your problem. I'm not going to discuss that with you. You know, if you have to really cut it off, because kids can get kind of vicious about this kind of stuff. And also I think that it kind of leans into them telling you how to parent. So I think just, you know, I'm not going to discuss that with you. I'm not going to talk about Sally with you. That's not your place. I'm glad you're doing what you're supposed to do. I would like you to go do this. Watch also though, in your sibling conflicts and stuff like that, if you have a child that is typically doing what they're supposed to be doing, although they're not usually the ones that are pointing out what everybody else is doing, but sometimes they are, just be sure that you're not heaping more on them because this other child isn't doing anything. We still have, you know, some set things, and unless you're doing something where you can kind of make it fun that we're doing it together. Like, you know, sometimes you're doing a project and one child isn't helping, and it's pointed out by another child. And it's always kind of interesting to me because the connection that's happening is between the parent and the child that are doing this activity together. And yet at some point that other child will be like, you know, why, look, I'm doing all this work and, you know, that child's not doing anything. And so just point it back to like, I am having so much fun doing this project with you. Let's keep going, right? And then maybe inviting that other child, like, hey, Sally, did you want to come join us? You can have fun too, right? It's not every project and chore that we have to do is fun, but I think that when we are doing it together and building that connection, that really helps. I have seen a lot of families where that connection isn't being built even in the task, because it becomes all about the task. You may have a parent that gets very focused on what they're doing and kind of forgets that they're supposed to be doing it with the kids. And the whole idea of doing that together is the connection. It's way more important than getting that done. If you want it done right, and you want it done quickly, and you want it done the way you want it done, then you may have to go back later and do that. Or you may have to have some time set aside that you're gonna do that project. But when you're doing something with your kids, you know, take some of the pressure off, because I found too that if we're really micromanaging our kids with stuff like that, they kind of, the ones that are maybe tolerant of it, seem tolerant of it, maybe also the ones that are like, you know, coming kind of sideways with other people about it in the same way, but it just comes across differently. So, you know, just those are some ways to kind of deal with a child that's kind of in everybody else's lane. And you'll have a lot of that, especially with the ADHD brain. And with autism, I see it a lot because kids are kind of wired that way. Their executive functioning skills are lagging in being able to just kind of focus on themselves. They're not as self-aware, but they can be really aware of what other people are doing wrong and not even aware that they are maybe doing the same thing. Like maybe earlier that day, they had a big fit about doing a project or doing something, you know, but that's like, doesn't matter. Like what they see is this. So it's redirecting them and making that smoother. If you have a child that's always correcting the other children, maybe they're even correcting you, you can, you know, say things like, that's not your place. I don't want you to do that. That's not what we're doing right now. You can say things like, and this, I hear this a lot, you know, it has that, you know, that's not your business, or, you know, stop doing that. Our mantras that we use in our family program say that parents are in charge, parents direct the day. I have had parents, you know, kind of use that. I don't know that it's very effective to tell a child like you're not the parent. It's much more effective anytime you can to turn that around into what you want them to do. So it's like, oh, I can see you're worried about that, but this is what we're doing right now. Or I think, you know, it's okay to say, right now you just need to be in control of you, and I will help this person, or, you know, something like that. If they're telling you what to do, that can really get a parent going. You know, it's like, don't, you know, like, and I see parents kind of argue with kids about this. It's like, you know, no, thank you, I'm in charge. You know, I've got it. I got it, pretty much, because I think you can be pretty calm about it. It's like, okay, thank you, I've got it. You know, not giving a lot of attention to it. I think some of these things too, like it's kind of meant to pull you out from whatever is happening and into this other battle. So I like to not give a lot of attention or time to some of those things unless I'm gonna go into it in a more positive way. Like, thank you, you know, and if they're calm enough, sometimes you can even say like, I'm just curious why you're worried about that, you know, and maybe they have something to say, and if it's a calm conversation, I think that's fine. You just have to realize that especially I see this with kids as they're kind of older, that 13 age, around there, maybe sometimes 11 to 13 with girls, where they kind of are evaluating you in this different way. So just don't, you know, don't allow your defenses to go up about it. It's like, just know that you are the parent and you are in charge, and it's not, you know, you can listen to what they have to say and just be like, okay, well, thanks for sharing that. And I always like to say too, when kids are even telling me, you know, like telling on their parents, you know, like, well, my dad, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yep, we're all working on things, or I'll just say, what are you working on? What's your goal again? You know, just kind of like, what was it you were working on? Rather than talking to them about what their parent is working on. So I tend to be kind of vague about it. I like to give kids reminders too, if they're being really bossy or being rude, to use kind words. I think it works better than saying be respectful or use kindness, or kind of these more vague, like that's rude. Again, I like to direct them to what I would like them to do. Please try that again using kind words. Please try that again. Using your manners. You can be more specific. Could you, can you try that again appropriately? Some things like that where you're directing them. I just know that you're not demanding, right? Like, we can't demand a kid to try again. We can wait. If we say to try again, we can wait if that's what we want to do. If you're going to wait, you've got to be willing to wait. You can't be rolling your eyes or being like, hurry up and, or anything like that. You're just waiting. And then sometimes they'll say it. And then if they re-say it, I try not to worry as much about how they say it. Like if they were too quiet, or they were maybe still a little bit saucy, but they did change their wording, I'm like, okay, thank you, and we move on. So it's a lot of it, and I think you'll see this, as you start experimenting with it, is using connecting language. It's a lot about timing, and a lot of our language is like that. We think it's all about the words, but it's a lot about our posture. And I think it starts with the thoughts that are going through our head. Last week I did a video about, what we think about our child, what we tell ourselves about our child makes a big difference in how we're going to be able to use this connecting ourselves. Like if we're willing to give the benefit of the doubt, it's a lot easier to come around and circle around things. And you can practice these kind of connecting tools in other situations with difficult people, with maybe with your spouse. It's so different than just trying to be like a counselor. You're just acknowledging what is, and then you're moving towards what you want it to be. So that's kind of an easy way to look at it. Like, you can acknowledge what is, like, I can see you're frustrated. How can I help you through this? Or is there anything we can do? Or sometimes it's like just pointing it out. I can see you're frustrated, giving them a minute, and then saying, okay, are we ready to move on? Or let's move on. Sometimes too, I'll catch myself like asking a question like that, but if a child's really highly escalated, asking a question like, are you ready? Are you calm now? Can keep them kind of escalated, where if you can just point out like, oh, good, I can tell that you're getting calmer. You can say, let me know when you're ready, but I like to, just also kind of point it out like, oh, wow, it looks like you're ready. Let's have a hug and go on, or, something like that. Anytime you can direct to do something, it's just so much better than trying to get a child to stop doing something, right? Yeah, let me see. Also another trigger kind of word that I hear from parents a lot is they want their kids to be respectful, right? Respectful to each other, respectful to them as the adults, respectful to other adults. And your child that's maybe more bossy or kind of rude, or I call it saucy, they may have heard that their whole lives at school or whatever, to be respectful, but they may not be very good at doing that. And so just really breaking that down to what is it you would like them to say, rather than be respectful. It's like, do you want them to use their manners, or do you need to show them? Like, I have a lot of times when I'll show up at the door and a kid just kind of like opens the door and runs away, or won't say hi, and you might feel like compelled, like, be respectful to our guest, or something like that, but it may be something that you need to keep working on and teach. So when someone comes to the door, this is how I want you to respond. This is what we say when someone says hello. And sometimes, and I've talked about this before, but part of like language skills is just telling the child what they can say. It can be a huge relief for a child to know that if someone gives them a compliment, all they have to say is thank you. It's not rude, it's not boastful. They don't have to make excuses. They don't have to get shy about it. You can just say, thank you. And it can take a huge load off them. There's a lot of little things like that. Hey, I noticed that you're kind of shy when people come over, but I just want you to know that when someone says hello, all you have to say is hello. You don't have to ask them questions. You don't have to do anything else. And then also you can tell somebody if they come to your house and your child is, you know, does something rude or you're kind of embarrassed, you can just tell people, we're working on it. Thanks, you know, for your patience if you need to say more, but really sometimes just like, okay, well, we're working on that. And I love that with kids and with other people. It gives you something to say too, instead of being embarrassed about what your child just did. I think too, like if you see kids that are bossy with other people, it's kind of their way or the highway a lot of times. Part of that is another executive functioning that makes it really hard for them to share ideas. So you may have a family meeting and be all sharing ideas about what you're going to do on your vacation, but your child that is struggling in this area with this executive functioning, they are the ones that typically will feel like nobody listens to their ideas. And they may, on the other hand, be the one that wants it all to be their ideas. So this is the thing that I think is interesting, because they may be saying like, you never listen to my ideas, but they're the only ones allowed to have any ideas at the same time. And if you have a child like this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So one way that we deal with that is to just kind of be direct about it and let them know, like, you can tell me one more idea that you have, and then we're going to listen to other people's ideas. And you're going to have to kind of reassure them that I'm writing down your ideas and I'm writing down other ideas, because it is another piece of that executive functioning where they can share ideas or they can take parts of different people's ideas. And this is a struggle they're going to have in school when there's teamwork, because they're not very good at that. They feel like if it's not all the way they said, that their idea just got thrown away, and they can't see that we took part of John's idea, and we took part of Max's idea, and we took part of you know, somebody else's idea, and we put it together. Instead, they just feel like you guys didn't do what I wanted to do, and so nobody listens to me, right? So we have to teach that in our family. So giving everybody a chance, you know, making sure that everybody has a chance to say something. And when we're waiting for someone else to say something, we don't have to give, you know, not letting the other kids tell the other kids, you know, that, oh, remember this, and remember you told this. Like, let them have a minute to think. Most of the kids I work with have a little bit slower processing, so it takes them a little bit longer to get something out. And I've seen a lot of families that when we have someone with a slower processing, we tend to kind of jump in and give them the things to say. And so that doesn't let them have a voice. You can also limit them by, you know, it's like, okay, I wrote down 3 ideas that you had. Now we're going to hear Tim's ideas, you know, so you can kind of switch around like that. You can say to them, like, I love your ideas. That's great, but I'd like to hear some other ideas as well. And your kids that are more neurodivergent are going to push harder for their ideas to be the ones that you do. So it's like, you got all these ideas. Okay, now which ones are we going to do? Are we doing mine? Are we going to do mine, or are we going to do this? And so again, like taking that apart and saying, you know what, we're going to do a little bit of everything. Mom and Dad are going to talk about this, or I'm going to think about it, and then I'll let you know. So giving some kind of space and time to that. Also, with your kind of pushy, bossy kids, you can tell them like, you need to give me some time, or I need 5 minutes. So when they're coming in and trying to bombard you with something, you can just say, I need 5 minutes. And it's so helpful to teach these kids how to have delayed gratification, how to, it controls their impulses, right? Like, we want kids to be able to not have to just say, it's on my mind right now and I have to say it. No, it doesn't matter that you were talking to someone else. It doesn't, like, nobody else matters except for this person and their ideas. In their head, they're not even thinking that nobody else matters, because they're not even necessarily aware. Like, they could almost step over somebody that they're not aware of. So you're just saying, you know what, and you don't have to, you know, point out their wrongs. Just say, you know what, I need 10 more minutes, and then I want to talk to you about this. And then please set your timer. So if you say you're going to take 5 minutes or 10 minutes, please be true to your word so that your child can start to learn to trust that. And also that helps them with their impulse control and their delayed gratification skills. So those are just some helpful hints and tools. They're not all of the things, right? But they're just good starts, and they're good things to be thinking about. I love thinking about different ways to come around different situations. And sometimes even after I have a conversation, especially if it didn't go very well, or an interaction that maybe had more conflict than I wanted to have, I will look back at like, oh, you know, I wish that I would have said it this way. But that's part of kind of coaching yourself a little bit, rather than beating yourself up about it and being like, oh, I just messed it up and I should have done it like this and I didn't. Instead, think about, you know, I want to really work on asking the question this way or coming around it this way. So watch this video again and write down some of those ideas if you want to. I love to script things out, even for myself sometimes. It just find it so helpful, and it just helps my brain to remember. And I think that we can always get better, and things can always get better in our relationships, and I want you to experience that too. Remember, subscribe to these videos so that you can get them, get notified every Friday when they drop, or if we have extra ones during the week. And I want to also encourage you to go to parentingchallengingkids.com, and if you think that you might want some coaching on a specific thing or in general, please go to that website and sign up for a free consultation. And I will talk to you later. Thank you.